Or depending on how long this goes, because I did start streaming kind of late, and there's also those hate bots that kind of took up some time for me to kind of rant about and all that. I might switch to gacha or uh something else maybe. Probably gacha because like I just have this nagging need to grind right now. I don't have a problem, I swear. But yeah, in all seriousness, no, I think I'll probably just carry on until whenever part one of the next case is done, and so on and so forth. Guild demands my attention as well as Ishtar. I don't think I'll be. Oh, whoa! I almost pulled the cable up by accident. Hold on. I just kind of rearranged some cables, but accidentally I almost tripped on something. Okay. But yeah, I'll be farming FGO and stuff off screen, so I can at least make some progress with Ishtar Fest. There's also a lot of the grinding stuff in Saga as well. But with regards to Saga, it's kind of like on the lower priority.
It was a ghastly tale of a winter's night. One
Oh,
of
is
an
that
invisible
case?
killer and a crime perpetrated on the pavement along Briar Road. As the victim lay at death's door, the mystery of just who had stabbed the young lady from behind had been resolved. But no sooner had my friend saved that Eastern Exchange student from his harrowing plight, then in the dim, flickering shadows of gaslight did a second bizarre crime rend the stillness of that very night. I dare say most can still recall the sensational headlines of the day. Haunted apartment of death, the condemned criminal's curse, the dread demon of coal gas. Yet, though the great detective had at once discerned the truth upon his arrival at the scene, it only proved to be the overture that announced the rising of the curtain on a most tragic play.
Will we be reading the event story after the event ends? Maybe. Oh. That's the food out of it right now. Okay. Actually, I don't think. Man, I need something more full auto friendly. If I'm gonna be reading this, I don't think I can farm Ishtar Fest while doing this. But it also seems like today's pretty scuffed in Guild Wars because I can't keep pace with this right now. I just keep farming. Nightmare 95. You know, it's like one of those times where I wish my Nightmare 95 full autos were slower so I wouldn't have to keep looking back as often to refresh it. Anyway, so let me just start this Granblue thing real quick on my phone, and then we'll get right to reading. 100, 150 start tomorrow. Yeah, I'd probably go no lower than 1k, and then just kind of hold on to the rest of my meets for 100, 150. But yeah, I'm actually kind of happy with the performance of my grid this Guild Wars. Unfortunately, everyone else has even more busted setups, also thanks to Belial with the Freyer key. So, ooh. I'm barely staying in 140k, just going as is right now, and I'm kind of irritated about that. War for Belial? Oh no, not War for Belial. I meant like the Belial key, the Freyer key. It's so busted with all the short-term burst setups. Oh my goodness. Casual 2 million autos, and like just combine it with Mimimel, Luchador, usual stuff, Alanon, usual, and you know, Wilness for just extra Ungo Bungo damage. You have like Xabas, more Xabas than you know what to do with. It's just, ugh, ugh. Knowing Belial is probably in character for him to introduce like those keys to us to really fuck over the balance in the game, knowing his kind of character who just likes to screw with everyone, in a way. But anyways, my name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I'm a fledgling lawyer, just starting out on my journey. 6 months ago, I arrived as a visiting student of law. Having made the long voyage across the sea from— actually, I think this might be a little bit too loud. I made it louder just so we can hear the music, but I think this— I feel like I'm trying to speak over the— game here. Having made the long voyage across the sea from the Empire of Japan to be here, London, England. And on the way, in quite extraordinary circumstances, I made the acquaintance of a world-famous detective. Currently, I reside in the attic of the detective's own lodgings, from where I run my legal consultancy of sorts. I've successfully defended a number of clients in Britain's highest court, the Old Bailey. But since a particularly grueling and unforgettable legal battle 4 months ago now, I haven't returned to the courtroom. In truth, I lost my right to return. But that epic trial was just one small part of an epic tale, a tale which was now about to awaken from slumber. Thanks to a letter that arrived this morning from my homeland. Ryunosuke, get some goddamn breakfast. So wait. I haven't returned to the courtroom since 4 months ago. I lost my right to return. How? What happened? Wait. Since the end of the game, we figured out the whole thing with, oh god, I forgot the Irish guy's name again. With him, man, is my memory that bad? I could barely remember the cases of the names of the other people from Case 5 last game. Man, my memory is like potatoing right now. Like, we just beat that game like the other month. What was the deal with Case 1? With Case 1, the perspective went from Ryunosuke from the previous game to Susato back in Japan for Case 1. And there she had to defend her friend who had no one else to defend her. And unfortunately, since Susato is a woman, remember the times that we're in right now, in-game, women are not allowed in the courtroom. So she had to disguise herself as a man under a false identity, and this is getting sketch already. And yeah, basically had to defend her best friend in court, where she was accused of murdering an Englishwoman. The same Englishwoman from the first game, who, let's just say she has a rather, large dislike of the Japanese people. And she committed murder, was found guilty of it, but basically because of legal bullshit, she pretty much pulled the diplomatic immunity card. And so she was basically gonna walk scot-free until she supposedly goes to the consular court in Shanghai, which is run by the British Empire. But most likely she would have been acquitted for whatever fucking reason. And so the journalist that we found guilty of murder was like, I had to do it, man. It's like, if our government's gonna just bend over and just let Britain do whatever they want to Japan, you know, I'll have to bring justice myself. And honestly, she did get what was coming to her, especially with murdering someone, and then just, oh, you can't just arrest a foreigner just after we signed our peace treaty and all that. It's like, no, bitch, yeah, you ain't getting away. That's basically the journalist's line of thought, and I'm just like, On one hand, she deserved it, but man, I honestly, given the legal processes, like she was gonna get away. And with how much of with how dreadful a woman that lady was, yeah, she honestly deserved that. There is no redeeming that kind of character. Acting smug, discriminatory, and all that stuff to her very end, to her very last breath. So it's like, the fuck. But yeah, so that was one hell of a trial. And funnily enough, the judge knew right away that it was Susato and didn't say a word because Susato's father, since he's good friends with the judge, is like, hey, so about the case coming up, so no one's gonna defend the defendant except for one particular lawyer, but it is my daughter. And you know how things are right now with the current laws not letting women in the courtroom, so she's just gonna, dress up a little bit and, act like a man, so, and all that. So could you just let this slide? Like, we got justice to carry it on stuff. Could you just do me a favor as a friend, man? And just like, all right. Like, the judge is a complete bro about this. He's just like, you know what? Since your father asked me so nicely, and I'm guessing, like, he's actually genuinely impressed about her bang up job with actually defending as a defense lawyer for her first time, is like, you know what? You actually did good. Also, dude, the judge, you don't fuck with the judge. The journalist that was just about that, like, what was it? That kind of ran away for a little moment from the authorities just to get some extra words in to Susato and the others. The judge flipped him on his ass. Like, not just flipped him, he flung him like high into the air without hitting the ceiling and landed him on his ass. And I'm just like, all right. I've heard good things. That's where she learned that from. Oh, no. Susato, like, already learned martial arts from, like, someone else. It's just, like, I guess it's just gonna become a running meme at this point, potentially, that everyone knows, like, some kind of martial artist throwing technique or something to kind of just, like, flip someone over. So we have the Susato takedown. There's, like, one other name from Susato that I don't remember. And then there's the judge. His name is Seishiro. So then I call that the Seishiro sling. And I'm just like, dude, you take a good look at that judge when he's outside the courtroom, or even just sitting on the chair in the courtroom. The dude is stacked. Like, under all those clothes, the man can take on anyone in a fight. Does the main character know any? You think Ryunosuke knows how to fight? That's like saying Phoenix Wright knows how to defend himself. Unless he, like, uses moveset from Marvel vs. Capcom 3, then maybe we'll talk. Aside from that, I don't think so. So basically, we're pretty helpless outside of the court, in terms of, like, Phoenix Wright, Ryunosuke, and all that stuff. We're pretty useless. Everyone else, though, they're more competent in regards of physical prowess. But anyways, we're hungry. What a delicious smell wafting up the stairs. It must be nearly time for breakfast. I better go down to Mr. Sholmes' suite and say good morning to the great detective and his flatmate. Ah, Runo. Good. I was just about to call up to you. The bacon's ready. Oh, good morning, Iris. It smells delicious as usual. Before we eat, though, I have some news. I had a surprise Shh! Not another word, Mr. Naruhodo. This could be just the, abstruse thing from my pre-breakfast stagnation repelling mental stimulation, my dear fellow. Huh? Excuse me? Morning to you too, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, yes, I see. So that's it. Oh, the personal space! Personal space! The truth is as clear to me as day. My faculties of observation have revealed it again. What are you talking about? You, Mr. Naruhodo, have this very morning met with a surprise. Well, is that not the case? Really, my dear fellow, it barely warrants explanation. Firstly, your hair is particularly unkempt, somewhat reminiscent of a bird's nest. Is this a deduction or a roasting? Secondly, you have neglected to fasten the third button of your jacket. Clearly, when considered together, these two facts point to you have been flustered this morning. Can I talk now? Oh, but of course. Though I don't look for admiration, you understand. My hair always looks like this. It's been this way since I first met you. Oh, it has. And the button was ripped off last night, if you remember. By you. Barely pull your button off. Ah, yes. I recall the incident now. It was after supper, was it not? As the evening advanced, I picked up my violin and began to play the wailing notes of a haunting tune. But then, to my utter dismay, the third string snapped! Why did it have to happen? Why? Little wonder then, that in my vexation, I grabbed the first button I saw and ripped it from its proper place. Sholmes, what the fuck? Well, I'd like it back now, please. It's troubling me that I can't fasten my jacket. And it's troubling me that you expect me to know where it is. Somewhere thereabouts on the floor, one presumes. How full? What matters at the present time, my dear fellow, is simply whether or not my deduction was unerring. Sholmes' issues? I don't know what you're talking about. But Hurley, Runo said it when he came in, didn't he? I had a surprise this morning. Hold on. Clean something real quick. Sholmes? Well, that really is a surprise. Yes, this man is the pride of the British Empire. The famous consulting detective Mr. Herlock Sholmes. There can't be a single person in the world who doesn't know his name. Alright then, enough of this silly conversation. Come eat this bacon before it gets cold. And I have a new herbal tea for you to try too. My latest special blend. And here we have Iris Wilson, Mr. Sholmes' lodger and companion. A truly exceptional young girl, who is the author of a highly successful serialization here in London. Yes, The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, as published in Rance magazine. So, Mr. Naruhodo, won't you put us out of our misery? What surprised you this fine morning? Ah, well, I received a letter from Japan. Oh, from Susie, you mean? Was it? Really? That's right. And she had some rather startling news, in fact. Ah, intriguing indeed. You must tell us all about it over breakfast. Oh yes, what fun. The armband. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, about this. Shh, not another word. Ah, yes, I see. This would be a collar for a breed of miniature canine with a particularly long neck, and for winter use. Sholmes. Sholmes. Actually, it's the armband I always wear that symbolizes my role as a defense lawyer. Precisely! Which leads us but to one conclusion. Your arm is in fact a particularly long neck of a miniature canine. Jones. Jones. I'm starting to wish I'd never shown this to him now. This man's barking mad. Barking mad. Okay, hold on, I think I need to charge my phone. Oh shit, sorry about that. This is a letter that arrived from Japan this morning by international post. Oh, how lovely! Look at Susie's beautiful handwriting. I wish I could read it. And how is your judicial assistant faring, may I ask? She's very well, thank you. In fact, according to what she's written, she actually appeared as a lawyer at the Japanese Supreme Court and won a case. Oh, really? Oh, isn't she wonderful? A cut above your good self, my dear fellow. I've won cases too, you know. Apparently, Mr. Natsume appeared in the trial as a witness. Natsume. Nope, I don't recall that name. Holmes. God damn. Of course you do! We helped the man! Twice! You know, in those 2 cases that took place on Briar Road 6 months ago? Ah, the mustache twitchy man with the somewhat feline eyes and mustache. He didn't have 2 mustaches, Hurley. Yes, who could forget those 2 cases? They made a very deep impression on me. Yep, Although I must confess, the details are a little hazy now. A very deep impression that they made on you, clearly. So, what was this startling news penned by Miss Susato? Do you remember the case of the haunted lodgings, Mr. Sholmes? Ah, yes! It's very interesting, you know. You gotta see a mirror drop? Yo, nice. I don't feel entirely uncertain that a case of that nature did not occur. Or did not occur. He's totally forgotten then. Anyway, in her letter, Mrs. Odd asked that we read over her case notes again and investigate further. Though it took place half a year ago, for what purpose? Because of something that Mr. Natsume said to her, apparently. He suggested that the real reason why she was called back to Japan so suddenly might have had something to do with the case of the haunted lodgings. Oh? On Mr. Natsume's return to Japan, Miss Susato's father questioned him about the case, she says. And something about Mr. Natsume said appeared to trouble Professor Mikotoba, prompting him to send that telegram. Oh, that case, yes. It was very strange, wasn't it? Yes. And I had compiled the whole story into a nice, neat manuscript ready for publication, too. But then Hurley was here all funny about it, remember? He was very mean. That story must not be published, he said, very mysteriously as well. Really, I said that? Are you sure? Do you perhaps know something about it as well, Mr. Sholmes? About why Mrs. Sato was suddenly told 4 months ago that she had to return to Japan? Mrs. Sato's repatriation? It's been 4 months now since we waved Susie off at Dover. It was such a shock, wasn't it? The way she just suddenly announced that she had to go back to Japan. Indeed it was. Due to a telegram she received from her homeland, I believe. That's right, telling her to return urgently. Yes, because her father had passed away. No! It said he was suffering from a high fever, the cause of which was unknown. He's not dead. But according to this letter, the news about her father's fever was just a ruse. A ruse? So Susie's daddy lied to her so that she'd make the voyage back home. Why would he do that? I have to admit, I have absolutely no idea. But she believes that it's almost certainly related to the case of the haunted lodgings. Summoning her back to Japan so suddenly like that, I wonder what Miss Susato's father is hiding. Ellie, do you know what it's all about? Oh, he's dressed up already. Ah, well, who can say? What? But you said... Please, I have engagements, my dear fellow. My calendar is quite surprisingly full today. And a stringent analysis of the matter would be excessive, I feel, even if I were quite at leisure. So, man the fort in my absence, won't you, Iris? Oh, I will, Hurley. Don't worry. See you later. He started off rather quickly there. I think Professor Mikotoba isn't the only person hiding something here. Soseki-san was also involved in 2 cases, but only one of them was forbidden from being published. Of all people, Mr. Sholmes. Aha! I found them at last. Iris, are they? The notes about the case, that's right. Susie and I compiled them together. The case of the haunted lodgings. You want to read them, Runa? Absolutely. Thank you, Iris. I have no idea what secrets could still be hiding in the shadows of this case. But perhaps if I read over the notes again, something might come to light. That's the spirit. And so, Iris and I decided to read over the case notes again together. From everything from what happened to our investigation and that fierce battle in court that followed. Reliving every detail. I just need to find the clue, and I have all the time in the world. Because of course, I'm no longer allowed to practice law in the courts of Great Britain. What happened? Did they revoke his... Oh! Okay, now they'll explain it now. It was 6 months ago. A mysterious incident that unfolded on the wintry streets of London. A young woman was found lying on the snowy pavement of Briar Road with a knife in her back. Oops, hopefully you guys didn't hear that. Oh, does that actually make sounds? Apparently my mic picks up like the slight sounds of me like trying to pull up or pull down my pop filter. Even though it doesn't really make any audible sounds to me, but I guess it's close enough to the mic that it does make a sound. Huh, that's weird. Who just leaves the knife there? I mean, we kind of went over this in case 1. It's a stopper. Pull it out and she's gonna bleed to death. You never want to pull out a knife. And this woman is actually okay now. She was, I believe she was in like a small coma, I believe. And she managed to pull through. So hey, good for her. Fortunately, her life was spared, but she was unconscious for several days following the incident. While the murderer leave it in her? No, Bryce, from the last game, it was all a huge accident. With that, oh god, I forgot their names again. But with some war vet and his wife, they were having some kind of domestic, like, dispute or just general argument. Oh yeah, it was because the war veteran guy was reading a book, but the previous owner of that book, because it was a secondhand book, I believe, left in a bookmark to a hostess or to a brothel or something like that, and it was a message from one woman to the man who previously owned the book, and the wife misunderstood it completely. And she threw a fit, throwing everything and anything out of the window in the direction of her husband, one of which was a knife. And that knife she threw accidentally ended the life, or almost accidentally ended the life, of that poor woman walking down the sidewalk. And because of the thick fog and stuff, as usual in Britain in this game, no one could really see a thing, and Mr. Natsume, who was there at the time, just passing by the woman on his way home, suddenly, like, found the woman collapsed, like, next to him. But then, because all the witnesses couldn't see that the knife fell down from midair, thought that Mr. Natsume murdered the woman. So yeah, it was not an actual potential murder case, but just an accidental injury of sorts, I guess. It was all just a huge misunderstanding that would have led to the imprisonment of a foreign scholar, basically. And oh boy, Natsume had a lot of things to say about Great Britain, about how horrible it is. Oh boy. By a cruel twist of fate, a visiting Japanese student was walking behind her at the time and was duly arrested. That man was Soseki-san, a man who affected his arrest, and the man who affected his arrest was Mr. Sholmes. Believing in our compatriot's innocence, Susato-san and I decided to represent Soseki-san in court. And after a grueling trial of many twists and turns, we finally managed to prove his innocence. Joyful, joyous, jubilant jubilation! Was the man's reaction after the trial, but his jubilant jubilation was short-lived. We received a telegram from Mr. Sholmes, the following morning. The victim of the Briar Road stabbing has regained consciousness. Hurry to Bart's at once. So Susato-san and I summoned a handsome and headed immediately to the hospital. Wait. Back in February now. Wait, to the woman who... Wait. Also Mouse. Here you are at last. Good morning, Mr. Sholmes. I think not. Oh. You're late! What on earth took you so long? Your telegram only arrived at 5...
only arrive at 5 o'clock, Mr. Sholmes, and it's a 20-minute ride to the hospital.
That's right, and it's 5:30 now. I think we made very good time.
The time is utterly irrelevant. The fact is, I've been waiting for what has felt like an eternity. In point of fact, I myself was awoken at 4 this morning by a telegram boy. And feeling it was somewhat unjust that I alone had been roused at such an hour, I sent one to you.
Bruh, shows, fuck off. It's like, man, I don't want to suffer being up at 4 in the morning. No, you guys get up too, because fuck you guys, suffer with me. Okay, Sholmes. Sholmes is a bad friend. What makes you say that? It's not like with his incorrect deductions and immediate jump to conclusions that he almost got Ryunosuke arrested for murdering his best friend. Case 2 last game. What do you mean he's a very good friend?
Well, thanks for that. Anyway, you're here now, so the victim is over there. She's only just regained consciousness.
Aw, poor girl.
You should introduce yourselves, and I shall observe from here.
So that's the lady who was found on the snow-covered pavement with the knife in her back.
Her name is... Ah yes, here we are. Miss Green.
Hold on. This rounded wooden figure isn't the most charming, is it?
Ah, I don't think that's a decoration, Mr. Naruhodo. It's an artist mannequin, I believe. You've been practicing sketching the human form in different poses.
Really? It's not exactly what you call a typical figure for that purpose, though, is it?
No, I suppose not. I confess I've never seen one quite so, full-figured before.
Well, if you want to draw a full-figured person, it's the right tool for the job. Mouse.
Hey! A mouse, Mr. Naruhodo. An enormous mouse!
Vermin in a hospital? That doesn't seem the best. But it looks like a
very healthy specimen, doesn't it? It's very plump.
Susato? Where are you going with this? I'm not sure we can say that's down to the excellence of this, facility, if that's what you were thinking.
That must be a bag of Miss Green's personal belongings.
She would have been brought directly here after she was found stabbed on the pavement, though. Could we pet the rat? No, unfortunately not. Now can we firmly grasp the rat?
I expect a friend or family member probably brought some things for her.
Alright then, let's see what's inside. Change your clothes, no doubt.
No, Mr. Naruhodo. You must never scrutinize a young maiden's personal belongings.
But the young maiden might have chocolates, or biscuits, or caramel.
Good morning. Hello, I'm, Ryunosuke Naruhodo, from the Empire of Japan. Oh no, was it your knife that... Are you the man who... No, I'm a lawyer! And I'm Susato Mikotoba. Pleased to meet you. Oh no, was it your knife then? Are you the one? Oh no, I assure you, I'm just, Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. We heard that you regained consciousness and wanted to come give you our best wishes. Best wishes? On me? Thank you. I'm Olive Green. I'm an artist. Well, no, that's not right, is it? What I mean is, I'm trying to be an artist.
These names, dude, I know what you're talking about. These names are great. You should have seen the last case. Write-in mini memo. And, what was it? What was it? Oh yeah, Ray Membami. It took me a while for that one, but then... Oh my god.
Well, what I really mean is, I desperately want to be an artist. But the truth is, I don't have any talent. I know I don't. It's no wonder I was stabbed in the back. I don't think that's related, actually. Gosh, this young woman seems to bend over backwards to put herself down.
Seeing as we're here, we should ask her about what happened from her perspective, I suppose.
To suddenly be struck in the back by a blade as you were walking along the pavement, what a terrible experience you had, Miss Green. It was so cold that day, and the fog was so thick, I couldn't see a thing. That was 4 days now, or 4 days ago now, I think. Is that right? Yes, that's right. I'm afraid you've been comatose all that time. But the case has been solved, hasn't it? While I've been here in the hospital, I mean.
Indeed it has, my dear madam. Spectacularly by none other than Herlock Sholmes. Sholmes.
Mr. Sholmes, as you well know, it was Mr. Naruhodo's hard work in court that solved that case.
Are you yet to hear what happened, Miss Green?
Yes, I'm afraid so. A gentleman from the police force is supposed to be, coming to fill me in shortly. Oh, I see. Me coming round seems to have made everyone frantically busy. I'm so sorry. I never should have regained consciousness. It was selfish of me.
Excuse me? Oh my god, look, I know people put themselves down, but I think that's going a little bit too far there.
Oh no, we're also relieved that you're on the mend, Miss Green. We really are.
With that kind of attitude, maybe her surname should be Blue, not Green. So, you're an artist, are you? Are you Miss Green?
Oh no, I couldn't possibly claim that. I'm a fledgling artist at best. I mean, I'm a student of art, really, at the Thorndike Academy of Fine Arts. Oh my, an Academy of Fine Arts. Great Britain is such a wonderful country.
Tell me, Miss Green, do you live hereabouts?
Oh no, actually, I don't deserve it, but I have a little flat on Brixton Road.
I see. How very interesting.
Oh no, is it?
Brixton is some 10 stops away from on the underground from here, and Thorndike Academy is a mere 33-minute walk from Brixton Town Center. Does that matter, Mr. Sholmes? Perhaps not, but Briar Road is far less salubrious part of town by comparison, dwelt in by those of inferior means, including the maleficent Mr. Mustache. Inferior means, I suppose Sasuke-san does fit the bill.
It struck me as somewhat out of the ordinary.
It struck me as somewhat out of the ordinary for a young fine arts student to be walking in such a district. That's all. What's this? She suddenly climbed up.
Mr. Sholmes, you should be ashamed of yourself, prying into a young maiden's private affairs.
Oh dear me, do forgive me.
if you don't mind. I'm being discharged shortly, so I need to pack up my things. Oh yes, of course. We won't keep you. Thank you so much, Miss Green. Ah, this looks like the patient's treatment notes. Let's see. Do not feed. What is this place, a zoo? You know, I seem to remember seeing an almost identical sign in our local park. For the pigeon, yes, this is a person. Poor woman. I hope she doesn't read I hope she hasn't read this. Ah, this looks like the treatment notes for whoever's occupying this bed. Let's see. Do not permit to run around in the hospital. The patient doesn't seem to be here at the moment, so... He or she's probably running around the hospital then. Oh dear, how worrying. What's worrying is why they haven't discharged the patient yet. There are all sorts of medicines in this cabinet, or in this cabinet. Look! I'm not sure if it's safe leaving all of them in reach of everyone like this. Yes, you're right. I can imagine if you were peckish, you might try a whole bottle or two. Well, at least there seems to be a little lock to secure the cabinet doors. It is a bit odd just to have it hanging where it is. Yeah, maybe. I don't imagine that would stop you if you were hungry. I worry that you'd break the lock. Hunger doesn't turn me into a criminal, you know, Mrs. Sato. Oh. Look, there's a photograph in this frame here. Oh yes, it's a picture of a young gentleman. He looks to be about the same age as Miss Green, I would say. Perhaps the young woman's special someone, do you think? Maybe brother? My, Mr. Naruto, I didn't know you had a sense for matters of the heart. Not in the least. I sincerely said the first thing I thought of. Okay, so that's what we have to investigate. Is there a Mr. Narrow Fodder here? Mr. Narrow Fodder? Look, I know that the British people in this game, given this time period, aren't really used to reading Japanese names, but come on! Come on, man! Narrow Fodder now? Well, if you're looking for Naruhodo, the lawyer, that's me, but... Ah, Mr. Narrow Fodder, good! This is for you. It's a message from Mr. Saucy Nutmeg. What? Mr. Natsume sent a message to me. But why would a policeman be delivering a message from Mr. Natsume? Exactly. What's going on? What's the Scotland Yard constable playing delivery boy at a time like, or at this time in the morning? Ah! What are you waiting for? Let me see that. Oh. Well, this is most unexpected. Yeah, that you be reading letters from me, or reading my letters. Is something wrong, Mr. Sholmes? Is something wrong, Mr. Sholmes, he says. Have you not seen this note? No! You took it away from me! Give it back! No, how could I have? It would seem that London's criminals have no intention of letting the great detective rest. A new case calls. A case for murder, no less. We must depart at once. Murder? Call for a cab. Time is of the essence. But the trouble is... We've yet to read Mr. Natsume's note. I was thinking we ought to pay him a visit in his lodgings once we did. That would be entirely convenient. Convenient? What do you mean? It's all here in the note, my dear fellows. The murder we must investigate took place at Mr. Mustache's lodgings. Wait, what? I'll hail a, how do you pronounce that? It was only yesterday that Soseki-san was in court and we were dispelling doubts about his innocence. And now, the very next day, there's a murder at the man's own address. He may very well be the unluckiest man alive. Or so it seemed to us at the time, but we were soon to discover it was worse than we thought. Dude, long day. We're up from 5 in the morning until whenever the end of this day. Goddamn. Wait. Wait. That jester-looking guy from the last game. We saw mention of him for like one cutscene, and then we've never seen him again. Excuse me? Wait, why is he dead? We only saw him for like a brief thing of dialogue. He was arguing with someone over some literary story of some sorts, or some kind of story. I mean, random throwaway NPC is not relevant. Look, if they make any NPC have some kind of fancy or any kind of unique look to them, they're gonna be relevant. So it's just a matter of when. They're not just random. They just planted them there and decided to not use them until the second game. But sure. So, what on earth? Oh my! The gentleman is deceased without question. He's dead. Locum student Mr. Naruto Esquire. Mr. Natsume. Oh, why? Why is this happening? Why to me? I've only just got out of court yesterday. I was finally home after 2 days of misery. And then I wake up to the next day to this. No early bird should catch a worm like this. Roll for worm without wiggle. I see you in high spirits again this morning, Mr. Mustache. Ah! Not the horrible Herlock Sholmes. Shoo! Shove off! Show yourself the door! I never invited you! Mr. Sholmes came here with us. I'm quite sure he'll be able to help you, Mr. Natsume. I'm entirely at your disposal, Mr. Mustache. What can I do for you? Yeah. Oh. Hey, Gregson. Here they are. Alrighty. The busybodies. Ah, Inspector Gregson. What a pleasant surprise. Pleasant, isn't it? Gives me heartburn every time I see your face at a crime scene, Sholmes. Ha! I deduce, Inspector, that your heartburn is a result of your excessive consumption of fried food. Yeah? Good morning, Inspector. This is a crime scene. Don't you go touching anything. Or good morning to you too, Sunshine. What a terrible thing to have happened. It's only been 3 days since I was arrested for the incident on the pavement outside. And then, having finally regained my freedom, it starts happening all over again. Endless existence of excruciating experiences. So the victim lived here on the ground floor and your room is just one story up, is it? Yes, that's right. In a way, we were neighbors, I suppose.
As a doctor, I prescribe more veggies and less fried food. Sholmes, you're not a doctor. So, did you know the victim? Were you friends? Look, Mr. Natsume, it's just a simple question. Were you acquainted with this man? Oh. Okay, look. I know I asked a simple question, but I apologize if I took it too far. I just wanted to know if he was just your friend. Think I broke him? Look, I just wanted to know. I was like, you're good friends with him, right? Was it the F word?
What's the matter with Sosuke-san now? It was an innocent enough question, wasn't it? Why does he seem so shaken by it? Well, I suppose he was a complete stranger. But did he ever invite me to his room? No, never! On my honor, I swear it! What an extreme reaction. You're probably wishing you'd never asked now, aren't you, Mr. Naruto? When we found him here, I felt wretched, which is why I sent word asking you to come. Ooh, that inspector over there!
So, Inspector, what was the victim's name? Who was he? Mr. Mr. William Shamspear. He was a lodger here. As you can probably tell, he was an actor. Bit of a dead loss, as it happens, or just dead.
Mr. Shamspear. Or Spear.
There was the landlord, old Mr. Garadev, and the other lodger, Mr. Natsume, who found him. The fellow didn't rise at this usual hour, so Garadev got worried and kicked the door down. But doesn't Mr. Garadev have a bad leg? Oh yeah, you're right there. It was that jittery Japanese hunchback over there who actually did the kicking. Mr. Natsume, kick the door down.
Well then.
Really? Sosuke-san. The victim was pretty hard up, it seems. Even done some time inside for petty crimes. He had no money, no place to go, no friends. His only acquaintances were the people in this house. Miserable life and miserable end to it.
So what exactly is Mr. Natsume still doing here?
Not involved in the investigation, so shouldn't you have sent him away from the crime scene? Well, I'm not saying it's because the fellow looks odd or anything, or that he acts suspicious. He kicked the door down with his sandals. Don't think sandals make for good door kicking shoes. Look, those sandals are made from real solid wood. I don't know. But I thought it'd be prudent to take a statement from the culprit. I mean, cohabiter. You nearly said culprit there, didn't you?
Oh dear. Mr. Natsume appears to be under suspicion again.
Certainly seems that way. He does just come across as such an odd fellow, doesn't he?
Oh man, how unfortunate.
Well, anyway, I can't say much until the coroner gets here. But I don't think the fella's been gone for that long, but it's still warm.
Even if the inspector would allow it, I don't think I could bring myself to touch a dead body.
Oi! I said hands off. You're gonna mess up my crime scene.
Oh, no, I just wanted to look, that's all.
No chance. I know your kind. You'll mess it up just by looking at it.
Someone's in a bad mood. Ah, there's certainly some bad air in here, isn't there?
Alright, sounds like I better talk to the inspector first to try to curry some favor.
Jones, excuse me. This is a crime scene, sir. Mr. Sholmes. What are you doing? Ha! You need only observe to know it, my dear fellow. Investigating. Naturally. There's nothing natural about that pose. Mr. Sholmes, have you made some miraculous discovery? Patience, my dear madam. Patience. We've not been here in this room for 5 minutes. So far, all I managed to deduce is what actually happened. My goodness. But isn't that everything we need to know, Mr. Sholmes? Now that you propose the idea, I believe one could indeed see it that way. At the present time, I've managed to draw 2 incontrovertible conclusions. The first, that there was a physical struggle here last night in which the victim fought for his life. Mr. Natsume, what's wrong? Is something that Mr. Sholmes said significant somehow? No, don't let me. Forget I was here. And my second conclusion is that there was a poison lingering in the air here last night that passed the victim's lips. Nonsense! Alright, Mr. Natsume, why are you reacting so extremely to Mr. Sholmes' deductions? No, please, pretend I'm not here. Invisible, ineffable, inscrutable, insignificant. Impossible to ignore. You must tell us everything, Mr. Sholmes. Spare no detail. But of course, let the theatrical tragedy before us be unraveled by my great deductions, presented for your pleasure in 2 acts. We've heard some truly astounding great deductions from Mr. Sholmes in the past. No doubt this will be no exception. What miracles will unfold before our eyes this time? So, my dear fellows, for your delight and wonder, let the curtain rise. For Herlock Sholmes' Logic and Reasoning Spectacular, Act 1. Oh man, here we go. The game is afoot. Cause of death. Careful observation of the victim reveals to us the events that transpired in this disconsolate room last night. Foam at the mouth of the deceased clearly indicates the use of poison. Next to the victim, we notice a large dining plate which contains, as you will observe, 1/2 of a sizable bar of soap. Soap! Meaningful, indubitably. Why is the soap set so purposefully on the dish, like the victim's last supper? Soup? No, soap. Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course, the fork reveals the answer. It appears that the young man's appetite was his undoing. Taking up arms in the form of his cutlery, the victim engaged in a deadly battle for his life. Yet the struggle against his hunger was in vain, for in the end, he couldn't resist devouring the slippery feast. Damn, 4 letters, all same words. I love how Sholmes is just like trying to shadow box as he's just trying to do this right now. But London's foul soap is besmirched by foul poison. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the contents of this plate, or of the plate. The soap and the lather about the man's mouth are too perfectly matched to ignore. The senior is worth making a gif of. Oh yeah, definitely. Anything about Mr. Sholmes is worth making a gif for. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to excessive ingestion of foul soap. Though personally, I have a greater interest in the taste of foul candle wax, of course.
What?
Topic 2. Suicide or murder? The cause of death identified, we proceed to Act 2, where we ponder the next question. Was this suicide or murder? The audience will recall that the death occurred during the victim's last supper. Did the man dine and die alone? The single teacup suggests the answer. To draw a conclusion on such meager evidence would be foolish, however, certainly. A careful criminal could have absconded with his own cup to cover his tracks. Well, allow me to lift the veil of doubt, my dear fellow. Indeed, what reveals the answer, of course, is the broken lock.
Sholmes, what did we just, what did the inspector just say just a few minutes ago?
Mr. Natsume had to kick the door in. No, forced open now. At the time of the incident, this door was locked. And the soul key was in the victim's pocket. In other words, when the victim consumed the poison, he must have been alone. Alone with his inferior soap, and from whence wafted an inferior scent. And with that, acrid aroma lingering in the air, the victim met his end in tragic solitude. We can take comfort only in the fact that his soul was well cleansed on its way to the hereafter. God damn it!
Sholmes is a bad listener and he was at 11. I don't know what you're talking about. It's oh my gosh, Mr. Sholmes.
No possible perpetrator present. Thus concludes the final act of Sherlock Sholmes's Great Deduction.
Sholmes is a treasure, he really is. And Gregson's like, the fuck you saying? A treasure, the kind of treasure you lock up and never let out.
There's just one thing, Mr. Sholmes. You're disposed to identifying just one thing, aren't you, Mr. Naruto? Pray, what concerns you?
Well, no matter how hungry he was, do you really think the man would have been soap?
It is quite apparent that this man had barely a penny to his name. It's a curious thing, but to one so destitute, soap can suddenly appear to be quite irresistibly appetizing. How extraordinary. In truth, I tried a little soap myself in the past.
You've eaten it, you mean?
My dear fellow, it was some time ago. My postulation was that it would cleanse my gut.
No! That's not how this works! That's not how any of this works.
And did it? I writhed in agony on the floor and split the contents of my stomach. Spilt the contents of my stomach. Yes, I believe it did.
Sholmes. That does not mean that does not mean it works like this. That's not how any of this works. It would likely kill the bacteria in your gut. Wouldn't you need some bacteria anyways? Like there's good bacteria, right? Might just kill the rest of you too. Oh my god.
The experience taught me that a viable lesson. Soap is quite poisonous. It has an unpleasant taste and leads to great discomfort. In summary, I cannot recommend it. On that note, yogurt's pretty good. Oh yeah, believe me, I wouldn't eat it even if you did. There's something else that troubles me as well, actually. Oh, what's that? It's Mr. Natsume. Oh! I couldn't help noticing him shuddering and quivering out of the corner of my eye. Almost as if Mr. Sholmes' deductions touched a nerve somehow. Nonsense. Well, that clenched teeth episode didn't last. I think, judging by Mr. Natsume's reaction, the great detective's deductions may need some gentle corrections in order to reach the actual truth. Yes. Mr. Sholmes' observations and deductions are sometimes a little too sharp. He has a tendency to hit the nail on the side of the head and drive it into an obtuse angle. You know, I love the metaphors and stuff in this game. Good on the localizers or the writers or whatever. A good way of putting it, definitely. You're on the right track, but boy did you go. Or it's more like he's on the right track, but he's running backwards on the right track. I don't know. It's just like, oh my god, dude. Hitting the nail at an obtuse angle. Oh my god. Oh, dude. Train is halfway on the right track. Hey Origami, how you doing? When he does that, it falls to us to straighten things out. Alright then, let's see what we can do. Yes, we must pick out the key words in Mr. Sholmes' quite brilliant deductions. And discreetly exchange them for something that makes a little more sense. If we can do that, I'm sure we'll arrive at what Mr. Sholmes meant to say in the first place. In that case, are you ready for the second performance of the day? Once again, my dear fellows, for your continued delight and wonder, let the curtain arise. For Herlock Sholmes' Logic and Reason Spectacular, Act 1. Course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Careful observation of the victim reveals to us the events that transpired in this disconsolate room last night. Poem at the mouth of the deceased clearly indicates the use of poison. Next to the victim, we notice a large dining plate, which contains, you will observe, 1/2 of a sizable bar of soap. Meaningful, indubitably. Why is the soap set so purposely upon the dish? Like the victim's last supper, in fact, yes. Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course, the fork reveals the answer. Well, you can't deny that a fork implies the man was eating something, or was about to eat something. Maybe this death was meant to be artistic. Maybe he was trying to like fake a death scene with some soap. To like imitate foaming at the mouth or something, but it was actual poison by accident somehow. I don't know. Yes, that's true. If I were to decide to eat some soap, I'd prefer to use a fork rather than attempt it with chopsticks. Killing yourself for art? That's a little bit too far there. And of course, only half the bar of soap is left on the plate. Oh no, that was Ryunosuke talking, wasn't it? Yeah. But might there not be some other explanation? Something material that proves whether or not the man really ate some soap. I suppose you'd eat soap with a fork, would you? I don't think it's a question of which implement you'd use. You shouldn't eat soap, full stop. But then why? Why does a man have a fork in his hand? Oh dear. I understand your frustration, Mr. Naruto, but please don't take it out on me. The point is, if we decide the man used his fork to eat the soap, we wouldn't be changing Mr. Sholmes' deduction. So we really ought to consider some other clues. Look, there's some more soap on the floor here. Mr. Shamspear must really have loved this stuff. Let's not jump to conclusion, Mr. Naruto. Look closely at the soap. Do you see that it will fit together perfectly with the half bar on the table? What the? How could that be? I think that they are two halves of the same bar that broke apart. Do you think he was drinking tea with the soap? The cup's empty, so there's no way of knowing. Ah, how about this for an idea? Perhaps the cup was full of water, and he was dissolving soap in it so he can gulp down as much as possible. What? Please remember that he may not actually have been the soap lover that he's been made out to be. Feel the fork, does it feel like it has soap on it? We cannot disturb the crime scene. Gregson made it abundantly clear that we're not to touch anything with this crime scene.
Take that!
Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course! The other piece of soap reveals the answer. It being the other half of the soap on the table. In short, the victim was not eating soap at all. But it's obvious really, for no deaths of hunger could drive any man to attempt to eat soap. Even I, with my unquenchable thirst for practical knowledge, took only a single bite. But that begs the question of how the man was poisoned. There's no sign of food on the table. An excellent observation, Mr. Naruto, and one that furnishes us with the answer we seek. For London's foul soap is besmirched by foul poison. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the contents of the plate. Mr. Sholmes is still pushing the soap argument then. Perhaps he is suggesting that the man licked the soap rather than ate it. If soap and lime is that poisonous, I don't think I want to be washing my hands with it. But there are no signs of any food in this room at all. Of course, food isn't the only thing that passes through people's lips, is it? Yes, a Western vessel for the servings of infusions of dry tea leaves. It's a teacup, Mr. Naruto, as you all know. Stop putting on airs. And it's empty. Ah, so we've already established that the victim wasn't eating soap when he died. However, there is significant evidence to suggest that he was drinking tea. My thoughts exactly. The contents of the plate is just the soap again, isn't it? Well, you know there's a saying in Japanese, do you? Don't you? If your food is poison, you might as well eat it plate and all. Well, there's an image. All I can picture now is the victim first taking a bite of the soap and then the plate. Soap like some sort of tofu and the plate like some giant rice cracker. Oh dear, that sounds like a very bland combination. If the victim didn't eat the soap, then what did he eat? Yes, it's a real mystery, isn't it? Ah, I've got it. He wasn't interested in eating the soap at all. It was this fork he wanted to satisfy his hunger with. Mr. Naruhodo, I really don't think it's helpful to continue with this line of reasoning that the gentleman had peculiar tastes. It's not as long as such a general way of words, but I know when I've been told off. So they let me rotate this any further. Yeah, no, okay.
Take that!
Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the teacup. Indeed, cups have been the vessel of choice for practicing poisons over the centuries. It would appear that this victim drank every last drop. There's no sign of food anywhere in the room, which leads us to the immutable conclusion. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to the ingestion of poison contained in this teacup. The cause of death identified, we proceed to Act 2, and we ponder the next question. Was this suicide or murder? The audience will recall that that death occurred during the victim's last supper. Did the man die and die alone? The single teacup suggests the answer. Ah, the Western vessel for infused hot drinks again. It's already featured heavily in our deductions so far. Yes, we can imagine that shortly before his death, Mr. Shakespeare was having a drink of tea. There would be nothing remarkable about that, but what troubles me here is that Mr. Natsume's reaction when he heard Mr. Sholmes suggest it. There's more to this deduction than it seems. We must closely examine the scene of the crime again for some more clues. Other teacup? Oh, whoops. It looks like another Western vessel for infused. It's a teacup. Also, see here, cracked. Also, you can see the dried ring from the tea liquid, meaning that the teacup was sitting there for a while with hot tea, enough for the ring of it to just like etch itself basically onto the walls of the cup. So wait, the other cup that we took a look at, it was empty, right? There's no ring around it. Excuse me. And it too is empty. Given that he's actually holding this one in this hand, we can assume that this is the cup from which Mr. Shakespeare was actually drinking. Oh god, hold on. I'm actually running low on meats right now in Granblue. Okay, I'll only do a few more full autos and I have to stop. But if that's the case, this changes everything. Everything we've deduced up to now is turned on its head. I have a bad feeling about this. I almost don't want to say it. Yes, I know exactly how you feel.
Take that!
Did the man dine and die alone? This other teacup suggests the answer. Yes, there were 2 teacups in this room all along. Oh. In other words, this is a strong indication that at the victim's last supper, there was a guest present. Why are they using the silhouette of... Oh man, I forgot his name again. It was that one dude from the previous game. Also mouse cursor. Whoops. At the very least, we can say now with certainty that somebody else was here in this room last night, taking tea with the victim. What are you talking about? Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly, unreasonable. To draw a conclusion on such meager evidence would be foolish, however, certainly. In which case, what more can we deduce about this possible guest at the table? Oh, that's Ryunosuke, whoops. Well, allow me to lift the veil of doubt, my dear fellow. You mean to say you know who exactly was in this room at the time of the victim's death? Indeed, what reveals the answer, of course, is the broken lock. I'm not sure I like where this deduction is going now. I'm afraid it's too late to go back to the, halcyon days of eating too much soap. But the identity of the guest who was in here last night when the victim passed away is something I have a very bad feeling about. Well, you can try to ignore your feelings, you can try to ignore your feelings, but we cannot ignore the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. No, I suppose not. Time to look around again. Pile of books. At first glance, it seems that the only things in this room are the makeshift stage and costumes. I overlooked these 3 books initially. I wonder what they are. Let's see. Titles read The Picture of a Monsieur Lecoq, Canterbury Yearnings, and A Meal for Boreal? I think that's how you say it. Wait, I'm sure I've heard those titles before. It could just be an incredible coincidence, but they are the exact they're the exact same 3 books that Mr. Natsume purchased the other day. What? Yes, on the day of the unfortunate incident when Miss Green was stabbed. Soseki-san had just been to a bookshop bought them, that's right. And now those 3 titles are here in the room of the victim. Yet Mr. Natsume claims to have never been here before. Wait, what does this mean? Sorry. What does this mean, you think? I really don't know what to make of it.
Take that!
I'm sorry, Natsume. Indeed. What reveals the answer, of course, is the pile of familiar books. Quite so. It's no mere coincidence that these 3 titles are here in this room. It's the link to the truth. Mr. Natsume, you purchased these books 4 days ago at a secondhand bookshop. That's just a coincidence. In that case, you'll be able to bring the same 3 titles from your own room, will you not? This very moment. No, never, non-negotiable. If you can't bring your own copies here, it proves that these 3 books are in fact yours. Having purchased the books 4 days ago and returned to your lodgings, you were arrested the very next day. So you could conceivably have brought the books here on that evening, but you never mentioned that. In other words, you could only have brought these 3 books here to the victim's room Excuse me. Why they make him do the whole song and dance from the courtroom all the way back to the apartment? Oh my god.
Okay, I need to collect myself. Okay, okay. I don't think I really found myself bursting out laughing as much as I thought in the previous game. But oh my god, that caught me off guard. It's one thing for the snaps, but it's another thing to have him basically pose and dance and shuffle his way back to the apartment in rhythm. Oh my god.
Last night, having returned to your lodgings after the trial concluded at the Old Bailey. Snap. In short, there's only one possible conclusion. The victim died here in this room last night as a result of poisoning. That same night, the victim had a visitor. And that visitor was you, Mr. Sosuke Natsume. Thus concludes the final act of Herlock Sholmes' great deduction. I'm sorry, Natsume.
You're just the most unluckiest man ever. I'm so sorry, dude.
Elementary. Not again! Not again! Not again! Not again!
Dude, am I really halfway through my water ball already? Dude. Okay, like, it doesn't take that much to try to, like, read Sholmes or whatever, but when it comes to, like, Sosuke, Prosecutor Ouchie, and, who was that other dude? What was his name? What was his name? Oh, no, that was Natsume in case. Oh, yeah. Just make everyone have deep voices. If only I could have if only I could change my voice in a way to read everyone in like Snake's voice or something like that. There's like someone in a TF2 clan that I was a part of, who was kind of famous in the clan for being able to do a very, very spot on David Hayter voice. Like, everyone just nicknamed him Snake and all, but oh my god. That man could perfectly imitate his voice. I'm jealous, because like, I think that's just his natural way of speaking. Because like he wasn't trying anything, he was just like naturally conversing. I'm like, I think to any of the newcomers in the clan, myself included at the time, we're all like, wait, that's how he always talks, and we're all like, oh shit. Metal Gear. I'm sure you could just try to say it normally without even like trying to like do an impression of Snake, and it just come off that way no matter what. Even if he tried his hardest, like, not to make it sound like David Hayter, he just literally has David Hayter's voice.
Excuse me. Well then, Mr. Natsume. It would appear you're gonna have to accompany me down to the yard. Again. Wait! Hold your horses! Yes? Door! Key! Locked! Entry! Exit! Entirely impossible! He's so flustered, he's being even stranger than normal. What? You think that's an alibi? You just made a copy. Oh, you live in the same building after all. Yeah, plenty of opportunity, I'm sure. Misery me! Oh, sorry, sir. You'll get your chance to give your side of the story later. The facts speak for themselves, Mr. Mustache. You horrible hairlock Sholmes! He really has found himself in our travel now, hasn't he? Come on now, no dilly-dallying. Outside, there's a carriage waiting. Welcome, student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. I never imagined I'd be in this position again, but you have to help me, please, please. I'm innocent. All right, I understand. We'll come to your cell later and talk about it. Oh, and one more thing. Oh, yes. My poor little kitty cat. Please give him his breakfast for me. And so, his evil curse still apparently unbroken, Sosuke-san found himself once again the prime suspect in a case of murder. Thanks to the incriminating deduction of the great detective. Thanks. My dear fellow, that honor belongs to you. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's legitimately our fault this time. We followed the truth as we know it so far and incriminated Sosuke-san again. We're so sorry, dude. You really do have the worst luck, man. We nothing personal, but man, you're really not doing yourself any favors here. Well, at least that means Inspector Gregson is no longer here. We can examine the crime scene in more detail now. If we let Shomstaku just get written off as suicide? Uh-huh. But oh boy, is the heart of Slum like, hey buddy, it's like, we know that we proved your ass innocent in the last game, just like, literally 4 days ago. But, you see, we're gonna have to take you in again. And I'm just like, bruh. He had 4 days of freedom. He had 4 days of freedom. But before we had to book him again. Not to me. Look. I don't know what else to say, man. Yes, that's right. Ah, and of course. What? Have you forgotten what the inspector mentioned before? It was the landlord, Mr. Garadeb, who discovered Mr. Shamspear. Ah, Mr. John Garadeb, yes. I suspect we can find him in his sitting room on the top floor as usual. Right, we must remember to go and talk to him later then. What's this? What's this? It looks like a part of an envelope, I think. I think you may be right. Perhaps it was torn off when the letter was opened. Is it that significant? Or is that significant? Well, it's a little out of place perhaps. When you look around the room, there's no sign of a letter. Or the rest of the envelope, in fact, is there? Ah, she's right. And yet, and yet here, we have the torn off end of an envelope. It just strikes me as unusual. I agree. We better just take this just in case. Look at these extravagant, bright costumes. Somehow they look out of place in this room with its grim, shady goings-on. This one looks like a king's attire. A king? I always dreamt of being a king. Oh, I think you'd be more suited to a feudal lord. daimyo or such like.
With a chonmage, with a chomage top knot? Every Japanese man wishes he had a chomage. Oh, okay, that's right.
Oh, you look wonderful with one, and you already have the sword.
Can you imagine what would happen if I walked around the streets of London with a chomage and a sword?
There's not much on these shelves, is there? There's this wine glass and bottle. Both of them are cracked.
Yes, not much use, are they?
What's the matter? Oh, I was just reminded of the Reaper, that's all.
Prosecutor Lord Van Zeeks?
Yes, he's so reckless with his wine glasses. I was thinking it's a waste and that he should donate some to the needy.
You can suggest it next time we meet.
As you've seen from the outside, the window is completely bricked up. A vestige of the former window tax that Britons had to pay.
What a strange thing they used to tax in Great Britain. I mean, making people pay for the number of windows they had in a property. It's extraordinary.
It's heartbreaking to think of the poor having to block up their windows just to avoid having an unaffordable tax. Oh,
what is it, Mrs. Sato?
If you look closely, a number of bricks are loose.
Oh. So. Oh yes, it looks as though an amateur has broken out a few of them just here. Was it Chancellor who did it, I wonder? Being the lodger renting this room.
Ah, look at this, Mr. Naruhodo. On the outside, there's a little ledge. And there's something on it.
What? Outside?
Ah, it's so cold outside. You can feel it through this gap.
It did snow all last night. It would be cold. But more importantly, what is it on the ledge out there? What are those snow-covered lumps?
It's more bars of soap.
Soap? What are bars of soap doing lined up on a ledge outside the window?
I have no idea. But the pair of them look rather charming like that.
Still, it's very strange, isn't it? Bars of soap lined up outside the window. I think perhaps we should take one. These are two, after all.
Oh dear, I suppose we could. Oh, what's this? Look here at the soap.
Ah.
You see, in the middle there, there's a patch that's a different color. It's sort of transparent, but it's
some sort of fancy design, I suppose. Only in Great Britain. Window.
It looks like the Hanimaru flag of Japan, doesn't it? How wonderful. It's probably a very expensive brand.
Expensive? Then what's it doing in this ramshackle old room? And here we have another disproportionately large machine. It's like a meter of some kind.
Ah, this is a gas meter, I think. It seems that in this district, residents pay for gas as they use it with coins.
Ah, I see. Yes, now that you pointed it out, I can see that there's a slot here that looks like it would take a coin. So you mean if you put a coin in here?
That's right. That would buy you about 2 hours of gas for lights and heating.
So if you're a poor person with no money, you'd have to sleep in the freezing cold.
Yes, or if you were scattering with no change because you forgot to exchange your money at the bank.
Thank goodness there's no meter in our office.
Oh, the poor man. So young to die. Do you suppose it was a very painful death being poisoned as he was?
I don't know. All we can do now is hope that he'll be reborn to a better life.
Yes, I suppose you're right. I wonder. Do you think that putting our hands together in a Japanese prayer will help a British soul?
Sorry?
I made sure I had I made sure I had a reference at the ready for just an occasion as this, actually. The book is entitled The Beginner's Guide to Praying for the Departed, the British Way. What? I'll just reread it now, one moment. There's, quite a spine on that book, isn't there? This is a gas wall light, isn't it? Must be connected to a gas pipe in the wall. Gas lights, a gas stove. London really is a city of gas. But now that I think about it, Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb had an open fire on the top floor, didn't they? Oh yes, you're right. I don't recall seeing a gas stove up there. Well, I much prefer a real fire anyway. It's so much cozier. This is some sort of makeshift stage, I think, isn't it? What is the audience at, though? For the nightly Shakespeare performances? Actors aspiring to the great stage must practice their art, Mr. Naruhodo, with or without an audience. In fact, on a related note, perhaps you should set up a mock bench for your defense, or for the defense in your office. What? Then you could practice your art every single day. I'll think about it if you promise to don a beard and play the role of the judge. You know what? Let's have Iris play the judge. Let's have Iris with like the full judge beard and gavel. Well, if that would help you achieve your goal. This I have to see. Oh my goodness. February 21st, the Garadeb's Ruin. Here we are again, the eccentric landlord's eccentric top floor abode. With Sholmes as the prosecutor. Oh boy. So who be the witness? The cat? The cat that we're taking care of? We're here because Mr. Garadeb's the one who discovered the incident this morning, don't forget. Ah, you chaps, eh? Yes, good morning, sir. Thank you for your cooperation in court yesterday. It was quite a trial. As much for, Mr. Garadeb as anyone, really. Getting straight back here, after all that business at the Bailey yesterday. Didn't expect to wake up to more bodily nonsense this morning. The cat is a witness and jury. I wonder if you wouldn't mind telling us exactly what happened, Mr. Garadeb. Okay, hold on real quick. Hey, let me stand up right now. Oh god. Oh yeah, hold on. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Stretch break. Oh god. If you hear some popping, that's just my joints. Don't mind me. Oh. 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 All right. Just pull my seat back in.
Gotta hate this chair so much. Oh my goodness. And okay. Ah, yes. I suppose you'd like to know all about the dead loss of an actor. I suppose you'd like to know all about that dead loss of an actor chap in the ground floor room. Those are exactly Inspector Gregson's words, weren't they? Ah, standing. It must have been a real shock for you this morning. I hear that you discovered what had happened. Ah, well, that hopeless actor chap rises at 5 o'clock sharp every morning without fail. But at 5:30 this morning, he still hasn't lit the gas. So I went down and knocked on his door, but nobody answered. And that's when you broke into his room by kicking down the door. Well, I'd call that rum-looking Japanese chapter the grunt work of course. Wasn't it a little premature to kick the door down? The man could have just overslept by half an hour. That's very true, Mr. Naruhodo. If 30 minutes oversleeping warranted such behavior, I have to kick your door down every morning. What are you trying to say? Hey. What are you trying to say here, Susato? Well, you know, better to be safe than sorry and all that. Is it just me or is he avoiding our gaze now all of a sudden? Except that it was a sorry situation indeed that you found on the far side of the door. The victim's name is Mr. Shamspear, I believe. Is that right? Yes, William Shamspear. Took the ground floor room here 3 months ago. And how would you describe him? Well, in the word, destitute. Destitute? Well, let's face it. The only redeeming feature in that room is the cheap rent. Anyone wanting to live in a place like that is either broke or has a bally screw loose. So hard to choose which category Suzuki's helm will fall into. Both is fine. Mr. Naruhodo, that's a little rude. I was doing research as well. Research? Into what? Shakespeare, of course. Shakespeare. I made a few plays of the old bard myself, you know, or read. Romeo and Hamlet and all that. Hamlet. Yes, William Shakespeare is England's most highly regarded classical playwright and author. He's known as Sao in Japanese. As you know, many of his works have already been translated. It seems incredible that Shakespeare was shortened to Sao, though. Sao was a bit too heavy-handed there. There were a lot of costumes in the victim's room, actually, weren't there? Of course, Mr. Natsume is a scholar of English literature as well. I imagine he and Mr. Shamspear would have had much in common. Shakespeare interpretation disagreement leads to shocking murder. Let's hope it's not that. Mr. Naruhodo, really? How rude. He's a mind reader. After Mr. Natsume's trial yesterday,
You came straight back here, I believe, didn't you? Did you notice anything strange between then and this morning? Well, no, it must have been about 6 in the evening by the time I got home. Snow was coming down rather heavily, as I remember, and it was completely dark already. That failed actor chap was out at the time. Mr. Garrideb noticed that there was no light from his room or something, I suppose. Couldn't summon the energy for anything much, so I just sat in front of the fire up here. It was after 8 before Chancery got back, and the chap was up until past 1 in the morning, I'll have you know. I suppose he met his end sometime after that. I was asleep by then, so I'm rather in the dark here. Well, thank you. That was very illuminating. Everything alright, Mrs. Sato? Well, I was just thinking it's a little strange, that's all. Mr. Garrideb, you were up here in your room all evening, if I've understood correctly. Oh, not a big fan of stairs, not this blasted leg. Then, how is it that you seem to know? The precise movements of your tenant on the ground floor, I mean. Oh. 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 That's a very good point. I can't imagine that you could hear noises from the ground floor all the way up here. Does this old man like to spy on his tenants, is that it? I say, I know what you're thinking, and that's a bally outrage. I'm ex-military, don't you know? So you would know a thing or two, right? No, that's like espionage stuff right there. So I was a soldier man, not a spy. I don't go around spying on my tenants. Why would I? Then how did you know, Mr. Garrideb? It was the gas woman. The gas tells me everything. The gas. What on earth do you mean, sir? How can the gas tell you anything, let alone everything? Well, as you're probably aware, the gas is supplied to the building by pipes. Yes, I'd more or less worked that out. Every room in the building is connected by a single pipe to the gas main outside. And the gas company supplies gas to properties via the main. Yes, I understand that too. Let me see if I can explain. Let's say I was to light the gas lamps up here. What do you suppose would happen? Well, obviously the room would get brighter. Exactly. Well, at the same time, the lights in all the other rooms of the house would be dim for a moment. What? They dim? Why? Perhaps it's because when you light a gas lamp, it briefly uses up more gas than usual, and that reduces the amount of gas in the pipe for the other lamps that are connected to it. That might explain why the other lamps dim momentarily, mightn't it? Yes, of course, because everything's connected to a single supply pipe. It's not supposed to happen, though. It sounds rather undesirable. Truly good point. Fact is, the gas company's pipes in these parts are pretty hopeless, long worn out. Barely got any gas in them to start with. Opposite's also true, though. Extinguish the lamps up here, and they glow brighter in the rest of the house. Ah, right, I see. So by watching the flickering of the lamps in one room, you can determine what's happening everywhere, or you can determine what's happening elsewhere. Huh. You've got it. So if it gets brighter in your room, someone turned off the lights. If it gets darker, yet another tenant is using gas. Huh. Man, that's such a shitty living situation, but these are this is cheap apartments after all. That and very neglected from the gas company and all. Oh boy. Oh, whoever piped this, I mean.
Oh, of course.
Because when people come back home in the evening, and before they go to sleep at night, what they're guaranteed to do is either light or put out their lamps and fires. Clever. In point of fact, the room on the ground floor and the one above it use slightly different amounts of gas. By watching the lights here closely, I can work out exactly, or almost exactly, what's going on in the whole house. Gosh, that's fascinating, Mr. Garrett. Absolutely fascinating. Oh, well, nothing to it, really. And I can't really see that it's going to help us with the case either. What I'd like to know is why Mr. Garrett is so interested in what his tenants are up to in the first place. I feel like there's more to it than idle curiosity. Soap! Damn. Well, soap ain't it? Whoever opened this envelope didn't bother with a letter opener or scissors, did they? Yes, whoever opened it was clearly someone with an unrefined temperament. And judging from the angle of the rip here, the person in question must have been right-handed. Mrs. Sato! I think perhaps someone's been reading too much of the Adventures of Herlock Sholmes. You can never read too much of it, Mr. Naruhodo. Never! Oh wait, can we look at the soap? This pot is a different color. It's quite an exquisite design, isn't it? Trust the British to turn a boring bar of soap into something special. I quite like it. It reminds me of the Hinamaru design of the Japanese flag. I expect this is rather expensive soap. That doesn't seem likely, given who it belongs to. These shells look like they've been completely torn apart by wild beasts. Reminds me of the Battle of Maiwan, don't you know? Ah, the experience of a seasoned veteran. Enemy had us surrounded on all sides. We really thought we were done for. The whole Bali company. We were talking a real pounding from the cannon, so all we could do is run for our lives. Oh, I thought the story was going in a different direction, actually. Well, the whole experience taught me one thing, I can tell you. When you're done for, you're really done for. That's not what a lawyer who often finds himself under fire wants to hear. That's an impressive collection of cakes on that fancy silver cake stand there. I feel sure that it was full of cakes when we first investigated here as well. Yes, quite right. I haven't touched it since. I haven't done much at all, really, since it all happened. Time's rather stood still for me, you know. Oh. Time stood still. That's an interesting phrase. I might be able to use that excuse when I'm, next supposed to be tidying the office. You could just tidy up, Mr. Naruhodo. I love how, Susato just, like, constantly reads your mind now. There's a good view over the, wintry East End from up here. It's an impressively gray scene. There's really nothing comparable in Japan. And down below, Briar Road, partly blanketed in snow. And the pavement where poor Miss Green was struck in the back by that knife. Thinking about it, this is the only room in this building that actually has a window to the outside world. Sometimes Great Britain really does seem like a strange land, doesn't it? I suppose all foreign cultures seem strange at first. Imagine how Englishmen would feel on arriving in Japan and seeing people with a Chamage topknot. Well, that's a good point. I'd like to know what that screen is hiding now. The aftermath of the fire altercation the other day. I suppose I'll be able to clear that mess up for some time now. Oh dear. This must be a very difficult situation for you. I'll say? People talk about twists of fate and whatnot. But this is a twist and a half. A rotten show all around. He's clearly struggling with everything that's happened. Doesn't really investigate anywhere here. Huh. With the exception of the top floor, where Mr. and Mrs. Gardev live, all the windows are bricked up. Yes, that's because of an old window tax that was charged on the number of windows a property had. In order to pay less tax, the poor members of society filled in many of their windows. But the tax has since been abolished, hasn't it? So the windows could all be opened up again, surely. Unfortunately, it would appear that the residents of this district can't afford to pay to have their work done. Yes, that's a sad state of affairs. Especially for people like poor Mr. Natsume, who have to live all cooped up in a windowless room. I suppose that's the price you pay for living in very cheap accommodation. It seems all rather pointless when you put it like that. What about the soap? What about the soap that's right there? There always seems to be a bicycle outside the Garrett residence. I read that bicycles are extremely popular all over Great Britain at the moment, in fact. That one seems very warped though, especially the front wheel. Does that have to make it more of a challenge to ride, do you think? No, I'm afraid that may have been a result of a rider's incompetence. For the front wheel to be so badly warped, I'm afraid the rider may have been similarly afflicted. Then, there's a good chance Mr. Natsume has been practicing on this bicycle, I think. Oh dear, you may be right. Why has somebody built a snowman on some sort of pedestal, do you think? That's not a pedestal, Mr. Naruhodo. That's part of the snowman's body. Really? But it already has a perfectly good body. Well, it's true that British snowmen usually are made with 2 balls of snow. Perhaps this is a foreigner. Now we're looking at him as if he's strange. Poor man, I know how he feels. If anything, it's just British and... if anything, it's Japanese and British 2-ball snowmen that are the strange ones, isn't it? After all, real people do have 3 sections: head, torso, and legs. Do you ever think that perhaps you think about things too much? Can we go back to the suite? Are you here, Iris? A little more time investigating here? Really? Oh, teacup. Ah, one of the teacups that Mr. Shakespeare and his guest drank from last night. But don't go drinking from them, Mr. Naruhodo. There's bitter poison inside. I'm not planning on drinking any, don't worry. Anyway, the cups are both empty. That's true. So, one was Mr. Shakespeare's, and the other must be the cup that Mr. Natsume was drinking from. But Sosuke-san wasn't poisoned, of course. Perhaps we should take these so that we can examine them in more detail later. Okay, it's a good thing I went back here. Oh, that was the last thing here. Looks like you're having a good snoop around, eh? Oh. Inspector Gregson. Back so soon? After I threw that little Japanese fellow in the clink, I went and reported this to the investigation division. In 5 minutes' time, this place will be cordoned off by the yard. Oh, I see. Well, we'd better be leaving then. Poor Mr. Natsume must be feeling very low being back in a cell again so soon. I'm sure we can probably go... It's a zombie! What's wrong, Mr. Naruto? Suzaru, don't look behind you. Ah! Out, out, brief candle, might but a walking shadow, a poor player. That struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. Now, how sounded the next part? It is a tale, told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Well then. Oh! Whoa. Oh, wait. If I hated high school English, do you have some news for me about this character? I returned from the grave to quote Shakespeare. Also, hello, Hongdoken. Oh, indeed, happy day. Walking Dead! Oh my god, the way his legs bent. Oh my god! Oh, wait. Oh god. Oh my god. So Gregson, can you let the fella ain't dead at all. What was that nonsense he was saying though? I think, yes, it was from William Shakespeare's Macbeth. A soliloquy from Act 5, Scene 5. Shakespeare? The fuck? So it was that the victim, Mr. William Shakespeare, came back to life. If the man had indeed been poisoned, it transpired that it hadn't killed him. He was taken by emergency carriage to a nearby hospital for treatment. And Inspector Gregson evicted us from the scene of the crime, whatever that now was. What the heck? Hey! What's that dude doing? Whatever do you think will happen now? Good question. What a strange situation for Mr. Natsume. Arrested for murder, but then the victim comes back to life. I think perhaps the victim was never dead in the first place. It seems very likely that Mr. Shakespeare did consume poison as we deduced. It was all an accident, attempted suicide, or attempted murder? But was it an accident, attempted suicide, or attempted murder? Until the truth can be established, I imagine the police will keep Mr. Natsume in custody. I suppose so. Let's hope it doesn't come down to anything more than a night in the cells. Oh, what's this? What's that man doing over there? It looks like he's trying to see into Sosuke-san's lodgings. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruto? Excuse me. Can we have a word? Ah! He just ran off. I feel sure I've seen that man somewhere before. Where was it? Huh. I do too, but I don't remember.
Was it that guy that was arguing with Shamspear? Well, we've done as much investigating here as we can, I think. Perhaps we ought to go to the prison and speak with Mr. Natsume again.
A good idea. Look, Mr. Naruhodo. Mr. Natsume, have the police finished questioning you now? Welcome, student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire!
Yes.
What is he? Tell me! Is he a ghost? Is he here to haunt me?
Let me guess, you're talking about Mr. Sholmes.
He actually calls himself a great detective, Mr. Natsume, not a ghost. But his diabolic deductions, they're not in this world. They've left me. Ah! Cursed! I'm cursed, I tell you!
Oh my god, man.
Well, that sort of hurts. Credit where credit is due, Mr. Naruhodo. You were heavily involved in the deduction, too.
Yes, moving on. We have some wonderful news.
Oh! The victim that we all thought was dead has come back to life, again.
Now, in the absolute worst case, you can only be tried for attempted murder. That's great, isn't it, Mr. Natsume? Is that supposed to make him feel any better? It's like, hey, instead of being accused for murder, I mean, you didn't die, so the worst case is attempted murder. Huh? Instead of a couple years, maybe half of that.
It's terrible!
Oh.
I'm stuck in a cell, suffering for some silly wrong end of the stick. You did it, didn't you? Confess, you're a killer. Why the mustache?
The mustache? Oh, excuse me. Hey, Patchy, how you doing?
Constant questions!
I'm sorry to hear about that.
Ah, that selfish shyster! Make up your mind. Are you dead or alive? If you were going to come back to life, why bother dying? Wickedly wishy-washy William!
Well, it seems that Mr. Shakespeare was never actually dead in the first place.
Ah, yes, that might make sense. I'm pleased to hear that he's alive, of course. Our lively debate last night was so much fun. I'd be sad to think it was our last. Oh. Oops.
Mr. Natsume, does this mean that you did see the victim last night? You met with Mr. Shamspear, didn't you?
I'm not saying another word! I demand have a lawyer present!
I am a lawyer.
Who do you think I am?
Please, Mr. Natsume. We need to hear your side of the story.
Why am I cursed like this?
Can you tell us exactly what happened last night, Mr. Natsume?
There's nothing to tell. But, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, I'm eternally grateful to you for helping me with that accursed case yesterday.
That case I saw poor Miss Green hospitalized after she ended up with a knife in her back.
It's hard to believe that was only yesterday. After the trial was over, I trudged my weary way back to my own lonely lodgings. And that evening, at past 9, I must have been, I visited Mr. Shamspear.
So you did go to the victim's room then? Excuse me.
As we feared. I didn't do anything wrong! I'd never been to his room before. It was the first time.
Then what made you decide to go?
I bumped into him when I arrived back at the house. We got chatting and it developed to a discussion. But he had to go out, so I bade him farewell.
That ties in with Mr. Garrett said, that the victim went out and came back after 8.
We met again later that evening, at around 9 or just after, when I took him some nice tea I brewed as a gift.
So it was you who brought the tea that had clearly been drunk at the scene then?
And I suppose you were discussing the works of Shakespeare, weren't you? Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Romeo and Juliet, who was the stronger? It was a delightful debate.
Who was stronger?
I'm sure. Such a stimulating subject, Shakespeare!
And the debate became very heated, so you slipped poison to Mr. Shamspear's tea.
No! Never! Not at all! Team Juliet won. That was me. When I left his room, the flamboyant fellow was fighting fit. I swear it, categorically.
Mr. Natsume, you say often the same thing about yourself, I've noticed. That you have a cursed existence.
Oh, I'm sure I've mentioned this to you before, but I've been here in Great Britain for a year now, and in that time I learned that this is no place for me. It can be very trying to live in a foreign land and to adapt to the ways of another culture. There are foreigners everywhere I look. And they all stare at me. They all laugh. That's the impression I get whenever I go out. It makes me scared to leave my room. Which is why I've become a recluse. But even in my room, I find no respite from my fears. I moved more times than I can remember, and then 1 week ago, I moved into Briar Road.
But why, I mean? Why did you choose that place? It doesn't seem very comfortable.
Because the rent is cheap. I have so little money, it spoke to me. The rent? Obviously, there's a reason why it's cheap. Because the room is cursed.
Cursed? Cursed how?
The previous occupant, the man who lived there before I took the room, died there. Oh no. He was only a young man, but one morning he was found dead and no one could explain why.
Surely no one wants to live in a room with a history like that.
I didn't. When the letting agent recommended the place, I wavered. But I want books! Books that cost money! A horrible history is a small price to pay. When I realized it would mean I could buy more books, I signed the lease like lightning.
Brave. Or blinkered.
But after I moved in, I soon came to realize what I'd done. I realized how horrible that group's history really was. Gosh, was it really so awful? How did the room's horrible history affect you, Mr. Natsume? What happened? At first, it was just a feeling. The feeling of beady eyes boring into my back, watching me.
Do you think that might have just been your mind playing tricks on you?
No. My mind doesn't know any tricks. It was someone else. It's been one long nightmare ever since I was given the keys to the place.
A nightmare?
You must have been having bad dreams, you mean? Oh, all the souls who have died in that room lean over me in my sleep and try to strangle me! That really is horrible. And now that I come to think of it, it happened again last night too. The very same night that Mr. Shakespeare was writhing in agony from the poison in his body. I was on the verge of being suffocated silently by those miserable spirits in my room. You must simply move out of that room as soon as possible. Yes, you're right, I know it, and that's why I'm already searching for the next room with a history to call home. You could look for a room without a history. I think perhaps you should try to avoid accommodation with any kind of history at all. Otherwise, I'm scared that you yourself may become history. Oh, excuse me. God, reading Natsume's lines is tiring me out, man. Woo! Susada-san knows how to make a man listen. Of course. Look, Mr. Lord of the Manor's, Lord of the Manor's worried about the curse on my room as well. You mean Mr. Garrett? Yes, he knows that if people keep dying there, he'll never be able to rent it out again. Well, that's true. I for one wouldn't go there, go near the place. Ah, perhaps that may explain why the landlord pays so much attention to the gas lamps and his tenants' movements. You mean because he's worried about their well-being? He does seem to have an unusually keen keen interest in the amount of gas in the pipes. There must be a reason why he keeps such close tabs on the occupants of his let rooms. What do you mean he pays so much attention to the gas lamps? Oh dear, no, it has nothing to do with you, Miss Natsume. Please, forget I said anything. Oh, now you're talking about me behind my back as well. Well, what's important is that Mr. Shakespeare isn't in fact dead at all. Once he's come around, he's able to tell us what's happened, we'll be able to get you released. Yes, please. Oh, I do hope you're right. Excuse me. Oh, Inspector Gregson. I couldn't help overhear what you just said, and on that note, I have some good news and some bad news. Oh, where do you want first? Always, every time, the bad news comes first. Well then. When hope is all you have, hold on to it. That's my guiding principle. Right, well, in that case, good news it is. Huh? Sorry, just a lot easier to explain everything that way. Hey, why did you ask my preference? As you might have heard, the victim, Mr. Shakespeare, was just unconscious. He's come around now. Yes, we saw it happen in all its terrifying glory. Still being treated by the doctors, but we managed to get a written statement from him already. Oh, isn't that wonderful, Mr. Natsume? Oh, thank goodness. It's all over then. I can leave this somber cell. Sorry, no, that's not on the cards. Eh? What? Why ever not, Inspector? Mr. Shakespeare has implicated someone as being responsible for what happened last night. Implicated someone. Oh dear. You don't mean... I'm sorry, I say I do, yes. He's pointed the finger at you, Mr. Natsume. Ah! By sweet poison that he seeketh to end my life. At wicked caitiff, Soseki Natsume. No! So I'm afraid it'll be apparent in court as planned. you'll be wanting to make the necessary preparations. No! And so, once again, Soseki-san found himself having to take the dock in the Old Bailey. Whether his room was haunted or whether he was just terribly unlucky, I knew I had no choice. The following day, I would represent him in court and do my utmost to break the curse that blighted him. To be continued. Oh boy. And actually, this is where I'll be leaving it for Greatest Attorney for tonight. I think I want to go switch games for the rest of the night. Cause oh boy, look, we're not gonna get through this trial unless I go to like 3 in the morning or something. Maybe longer, depending on how much I might mess up the case. So we'll continue this later. And we already saved at the checkpoint, so not much point here.